Christian Adams is standing by from Public Interest Legal Foundation. We have good news to report. Christian, I never put you on the program with good news to report, do I?
No, it's usually a point of no return, like you're going to Kansas or something.
I know. But not this time. That was just because I want some classic rock. So tell me the good news, and then maybe we'll talk about things that are not necessarily good, but good news, unqualified good news from Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't believe it, actually. I know what you're talking about. So remember, we sued over the Green Bay election clerk up there, not knowing what the law is. Like when it came to same-day registration, she lost her mind and flipped out on my staff and started screaming at them and said she didn't know what the law was. And sure enough, she didn't know what the law was. And WEC, believe it or not, I mean, I'm going to have a hard time saying these words. WEC ruled against her in our lawsuit and said that she broke the law and instructed her and commanded her to never do it again and actually enforce the law. So, oh my goodness gracious, something good from WEC.
Yeah, and the law had to do with bad voter registrations. She didn't know that she has a requirement to identify those and to refer those to law enforcement if necessary.
Yeah, and she hadn't been. And there were same-day registrants in past elections who didn't seem to really exist. And when she sent out the verification mail, it came back like nobody here by that name. And that's when she's supposed to act. And of course, she didn't know she was supposed to because she didn't know the law. And so all these Green Bay same-day fake registrants got away with it.
How are your spidey senses right now, Christian? I mean, you look at all the battleground states, all of the election integrity issues, and we're seeing kind of scary headlines coming out of some states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, not so much Georgia anymore, but Pennsylvania apparently had the RNC go in and get a favorable ruling from the court. And then the court says, except we're not going to apply the ruling on November 5th. So, I mean, but overall, what do you think?
Yeah, so overall, I just have a piece that just went up at PJ Media. It said it's not 2020. Go vote. It's very different than it was in 2020 with the suspension of rules. Right, and look, it's not perfect. There's still some rough stuff along the edges. But by and large, the system is a whole lot better than it was in 2020. So there's no reason not to vote. On the other hand, here comes the bad news. I am terribly concerned about the cultural situation. I think the country is far worse as a cultural matter. And if you don't think culture is politics, then you didn't listen to Andrew Breitbart and everybody else for the last 14 years. I'm afraid the country is in a different place than it was even 4 years ago and certainly 8 years ago and certainly 14 years ago.
Yeah, what we've got, I think, is, and I think the Trump campaign's done a good job, particularly because he has spokespeople like Tulsi Gabbard or like Elon Musk or Tucker Carlson to point out that this is for the soul of the country. This is for the party that wants, life and love and God and neighborliness and a functioning economy and functioning borders. Versus people who want to tear it all apart, who want to destroy the sovereignty, the peace, and the order of American cities, of American small towns, who want to upend everything to the point where there's so much chaos you can't fight it all. And this is, I think, it's our last chance.
Yeah, I mean, we really crossed a line, Vicki, and I know, I hope I can make it on Right Wing Watch or maybe Media Matters with this comment. I always strive for that goal. I think we crossed a line when we started saying men could be women and women could be men. I mean, look, everything else before that was kind of like good faith differences, but when you start getting these people rabidly in favor of altering human identity, you've crossed a line into almost diabolical chaos. And I just think the country, the fact that anybody accepts that, I don't want to be I'm not some kind of trans crusader, believe me, but it's front and center in this campaign. And I think Trump is on the right side and Harris is on the wrong side. And that issue alone gets to the heart of what we are as human beings and what our role is in the universe. And I think the fact that we're even on a close call on that scares me.
No kidding. And it's front and center good, because you had referenced Andrew Breitbart, who famously said politics is downstream from culture. And you have all these politicians that want to touch it. I mean, we had an obvious layup, easy piece of legislation in Wisconsin. Don't let biological boys play on girls' sports teams. I mean, it wasn't not even controversial, right? That's an easy one. And we actually couldn't get 100% of Republicans to vote in favor of that. Think about that. I mean,
that's unbelievable.
It was an act of God to get it introduced in public hearings and all of that. And then we actually couldn't get all Republicans to vote in favor of that. Because they didn't, I don't know why. This is truth itself is what you're talking about, though. When human identity is up for grabs, truth is up for grabs. And that really is what's going on. I mean, you've got Kathy Hochul. Not that I give a damn what Kathy Hochul says, because what she does doesn't affect me. But Kathy Hochul is claiming that if you are not in favor of men and women's sports, if you are not in favor of abortion on demand until the very last moment of pregnancy, if you're not in favor of, radical open borders in cities that have been, turned into complete, third world dumpster fires, you're un-American. I mean, with a straight face. And I think she believes that. So it's not even just truth itself. It's almost 50% of the people who actually believe that truth itself should be negotiable.
Yeah, this is exactly it, Vicki. If you were to say Christian Adams is going to be on today to talk about how the elections are better, but the country is worse, that would be it. It's this is not an election integrity issue. This is a much deeper one. And so even though we fix the elections, this rotted, deconstructionist, wicked Marxist view of humanity is now becoming the dominant culture. And, the soundest election in the world, the cleanest election in the world cannot overcome a population who has lost their minds.
Yeah, so that's what's going to be on. That really will be determined tomorrow. It will be whether or not America has decided to slouch into its end in the most, unimpressive, decadent. I mean, really, sort of unimpressively decadent. It isn't like cultures haven't descended and devolved into decadence and then completely failed. Whether we're going to choose to just simply be yet another example of that, from a formerly, fantastic, strong, industrious, beautiful culture to one that just limps into its demise, into miserable social and economic Marxism, or not. That's it.
It really is, and the reaction, if we have time, of sort of look, if Harris wins, it's going to be because women ran from the forest in fear over a false specter. It's like, oh my God, the evil man wants to take away my abortion. I mean, that will
I'm not going to have because I'm 55 years old.
Right, exactly, right. That's the insanity of it. That these people who don't have any skin in that game are still wound up about a specter that doesn't exist. And of all the things to drive an election, to nosedive this country is that.
Yeah, there's a meme out there that says something to the effect of, nuclear war, I don't want nuclear war, but my abortion,
right.
And the image is this sort of craggy old woman. Exactly. You've got college educated women, some of them with multiple letters after their name, living in, $700,000 homes, and they're out there thinking that their life is The Handmaid's Tale. I mean, what weird inversion of reality do you have to live in when, the most unaccomplished but highly credentialed women on the planet somehow think that they are one step away from being, shackled to a stove or something stupid like that?
I wish I was shackled to a stove. I could cook all day. I mean, that sounds like... get my paella going and a little meatballs. And yeah, I mean, look, I was in the gallery. I've written about this. You may have had me on years ago. When Kavanaugh got confirmed, when the vote in the Senate crossed the threshold, these crazed women erupted in this cackling noise. Most of them looked like they were out of central casting, disrupted the Senate proceedings. C-SPAN muted it out so you couldn't hear it, because you might have had to call a priest to exercise your house if you heard this noise. And nothing happened to these people. They weren't arrested for insurrection. They aren't in the federal prison for disrupting a congressional proceeding. It's everything was crystallized by their frenzied noise that they made. This like diabolical shrieking, and they're treated differently. So like encapsulates everything in one example. And I just was I was so here they come. Now they're coming in large. Is my point. Yeah,
well, in the noise that is going to accompany the limping end of America, if that's what people choose to do tomorrow, is going to just be so dumb and shrill and annoying. So, yeah, the beatings will continue. Unless you choose otherwise, folks, and you have no excuse not to. Christian Adams, Public Interest Legal Foundation, thank you so much today.
Anytime, Vicki. Take care.